You didn't miss the boat on Macklin Celebrini's card market. If you still want to grab a Macklin Celebrini rookie card on the cheap, there are still options out there. There is no such thing right now as a bad Macklin Celebrini card. Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of Nonsense on Ice, where we talk hockey and we talk the hobby. Nonsense on Ice, as always, presented by our friends at Upper Deck. Doug Plagens here with you, and we encourage you right off the top. Like, subscribe, comment, leave a review wherever you're tuned in. Tell a friend. We've enjoyed all the interaction that we've had, and of course, we look forward to hearing from more and more of you as time goes along. But having a lot of fun here on Nonsense on Ice. Happy New Year, the first Nonsense on Ice of 2026. So diving right into this, we have a pretty loaded show for you to kick off the new year. We'll have some NHL news. We'll touch on the storylines out of the gate like we always do. We'll get the hobby 3 stars as we always do. We'll check in on Macklin Celebrini's market. I promised you that last couple of weeks that we would take a look and follow along with Macklin Celebrini's market. I know we're all probably doing that day to day anyways in the hobby with how he's performed this season, but we'll take a look at some of his cards a little bit later on. We have a great guest stopping by. The general manager of PSA Canada, Brad Hartlin, was kind enough to take some time out for us. We'll have that conversation coming up here in just a little bit. Really a great conversation and hit on a lot of different things with Brad Hartlin. So again, a chance to hear from the GM of PSA Canada to talk about how they're expanding and everything that goes along with that. So that's coming up here in just a little bit. And we've got a value vintage pick as always. And I know it's 2026. I know we've turned the page into a new calendar year, but we have a box of 24-25 Upper Deck Ultimate Collection right here. I picked that up at the Winter Classic, so we'll talk about that here in a moment as well. Got that at the Winter Classic. Upper Deck was set up at the Winter Classic. My friends at AA Min Cards were there. So again, we'll talk about my experiences there at the Winter Classic a couple of days back. But just hitting on a few housekeeping notes right away, and I guess this is more than a housekeeping note. We will have a full Olympic preview episode in the coming weeks as we get closer to the NHLers going overseas, over to Milan and playing in the Olympic Games. We'll have more on that again in the coming weeks, but the rosters were announced since the last time we spoke to you on Nonsense on Ice, and obviously there were some surprises. It spurred on a lot of conversation. There are some players that folks maybe thought should have had a spot on one of those rosters. Again, that's always going to be a debate whenever you have things like this come up, but I think at first, just taking a look at the overall picture as far as these Olympic rosters go. And like I said, we will break it all down and have an Olympic preview in a coming episode, maybe in the coming weeks. But for players that you expected to be on the team or that you knew were on the team that were part of the initial rollout of the rosters, I'm not sure how much their card markets would be affected. I think this is actually an instance where you're going to see the on ice, the performance, the results maybe outweigh the lead up and the hype in some cases, or in the case of some players that maybe were battling for a spot. Maybe it wasn't a sure thing, and we'll have one of those. We'll talk about Hobby 3 stars coming up shortly. But for a player like that, I think we've already seen a boost as far as some players' card markets are concerned. For young players who were left off a roster, Lane Hutson, for example, that would not steer me away from being interested in Lane Hutson's card market. And you look at a few names that just off the top of my head, Lane Hutson, Cutter Gauthier, Matthew Nyes, those guys are going to have their time. Such young players. And in the case of a Lane Hutson, for him to have the most success, you figure he's got to be running one of those power plays in a roster that's already got Quinn Hughes on it, that's already got Zach Werenski on it, that's got a full complement of defensemen that if they were thrust into a power play quarterbacking role, they would be able to handle it because a lot of them do it for their NHL teams. They're pretty well set there. But when you've got Quinn Hughes and you've got Zach Werenski, it's going to be hard for anybody to come in and quarterback one of those top 2 power play units. So, again, Lane Hutson's going to have his time. He's one guy, for example, that stands out being left off a roster, and that would never steer me away from picking up Lane Hutson cards, just the fact that he was left off this Olympic team. Those guys are going to have their time, I'm sure, in 4 years. Next time the NHLers go to the Olympics, he will be a part of that roster because he's an electrifying player. Had a chance to see him play less than a week ago at the time of this recording in person, and he does have some of that bring you out of your seat ability. So again, a guy that we all like watching and a guy whose cards are still going to be of interest. So I think when you look at it, the big themes off the top as far as the Olympic rosters are concerned, some guys are going to get an immediate boost if they were maybe battling for a roster spot and they were named to the team. Some guys, I don't think much is going to change right now until they start playing games. For guys that didn't make one of those rosters, again, maybe it's an opportunity to come in and grab some cards while people are chasing the cards of the players who are heading off to the Olympics. So we'll talk more about the Olympics and do a full preview in the coming weeks at some point. The World Junior, it's ongoing. The World Junior Championships, they are ongoing. At the time of this recording, and I don't want to dig too deep into it right now because at the time of this recording, we're recording on a Sunday. The semifinal games are coming up later today. So by the time we talk to you next on Nonsense on Ice, we will know who won the tournament. We'll be able to sit back and talk about exactly what happened and how things unfolded. But one name that's jumping off the page right now, and we talked about him leading into the tournament, Zane Parekh, the Calgary Flames defenseman, who is a young gun in Series 1 Upper Deck this year. And when a guy's in Series 1 Upper Deck means he's going to be in all the product, have a lot of rookie cards to chase this year. He is putting on a show in the tournament. At the time that we're talking to you right now, he's leading the World Junior Championships in points. So pretty good feat for a defenseman. Has a chance to set a new Team Canada record for points in the tournament by a defenseman, depending on how the rest of the tournament goes, but he's got a shot at that. The all-time record was 12 points, Brian McCabe for Team Canada, and Zane Parekh currently sitting at 10 points, but he's been playing a really fun brand of hockey that you know he can play. He has that great ability, too, to move the puck up the ice in a hurry. Very offensively gifted defenseman. He's shown a great personality throughout the tournament, too, having a lot of on-ice success. It's a guy that I've been high on coming into the year and, again, had an injury in the National Hockey League earlier this season, but really putting things together at the World Juniors. So a guy to keep an eye on, and we've seen the hobby. I mentioned Lane Hutson already. We've spent a lot of time talking about Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes in recent episodes. The hobby has continued to accept defensemen, offensively gifted, puck-moving defensemen, more and more as time goes on. So Zane Parekh, a guy that I know I've been eyeballing his rookie cards already, and I'm sure a lot of you have as well. And the way he's performed in the World Juniors, I'm sure that is going to continue. So a few international items there out of the gate. Let's get to the Winter Classic. And I was there, called the game, Panthers radio. If you're new to the program, I've been doing Panthers games on the radio now for, this is my 11th season. So it was my first outdoor game that I'd ever called in the National Hockey League. And I can tell you first and foremost, it was every bit the spectacle and the show that you hoped it would be. And I was telling people at the Fan Fest, and we'll talk more about the Fan Fest here in just a moment. I was telling people at the Fan Fest outside earlier the day of the game, people who hadn't been inside just yet, because a lot of folks had seen pictures of how Lone Depot Park in Miami was coming together and how it was going to look and how the rink looked and everything like that. I said, you know, it looks great in the pictures. I know you're expecting it to look great. Take whatever your expectation is and amplify it, because it was just an awesome sight. And speaking from the perspective of somebody down here who's seen hockey really take off in recent years, not just in South Florida, but across the entire Sunshine State, it was really special. It was a really cool event, a chance for just to really show the growth of the sport. For the Panthers, game didn't go well. Rangers ended up winning that one, but I think overall what we're going to take away from that was just the fact that it was a great show, and it was a chance for South Florida to really display, again, just what a hockey market it's become. And 36,000 people at Lone Depot Park. The scene was just amazing. And I know as far as the lead up goes and everything like that, it was a great time had by all. So a special event, the Winter Classic always is. And the Lightning, they're going to be hosting an outdoor game on the other side of Florida coming up in about a month's time or so. Again, illustrates the growth of the game, not only in this area, but nationally. And that's something we've talked about in the first few editions of Nonsense on Ice. Part of why you see hockey growing, but part of, I think, why you see it growing as a hobby segment too. It's a game that is just increasing its footprint across North America. So again, it was a celebration of the sport, and it was really fun to be a part of. And prior to that, I had done story time, but I had called one outdoor game in my pro hockey broadcasting career, and it was in 2013 in Rochester. I was working for the Lake Erie Monsters, now the Cleveland Monsters at the time, and we were the visiting team. Went in, they played a game in Rochester, New York at the baseball stadium. It was 18 degrees at puck drop. This one was a little bit more comfortable. It was, I think, 63 degrees was the game time temperature. It probably settled into the 50s as time went along. And again, it was just a special night and a special event to be a part of. But something else I noticed earlier that day, the Fan Fest that went on starting in the early afternoon all the way through when the game started. Obviously, you had a lot of different tents and a lot of different fan activities going on out there, interactive activities, everything like that. But of course, our friends at Upper Deck were set up out there, and I can tell you just from my observation, the foot traffic and the attention and the crowd around Upper Deck's tent was consistent and just busy all day long, which was awesome to see, whether it was people who were experienced in the hobby or people just coming over to see what it was all about. It was just awesome to see that kind of traffic around Upper Deck's tent. And, at the big events, always a big hit. Folks had the opportunity to get their picture taken and create their own trading card. People always love that. So really cool promotional thing that Upper Deck does. So it was great to see them there and set up in Upper Deck's tent right next to them. My friends from AA Mint Cards right down here in South Florida had a chance to hang out with them, and again did some videos with them. We ripped some stuff. It was a lot of fun, and to see the amount of attention at their booth and people coming up and checking out the carts and buying wax and everything that was going on. It was a lot of fun to be a part of, and it was cool to see that the hobby had that kind of a footprint at the Fan Fest. And always great to see my friends from AM and Cards. Like I said, we're going to open up this Ultimate Collection box before the end of the show. But yeah, great store if you're ever down in South Florida. My friends from AM and Cards. And they have a great online presence too. If you're not in the region, check out their shop online, all the different ways that you can check them out. And they're breaking all day, all kinds of stuff that they're doing. But cool shop that I've seen grow quite a bit down here in this area. So they were a part of it. We were all a part of it. Winter Classic was a great spectacle back on, at this point in time, would have been a couple of days back on Friday. Who's hot in the National Hockey League? So we're recording on a Sunday. Oftentimes we do record on a Sunday. Colorado's won 10 straight, plus 73, their team goal differential, which is about 40 more than the next team right now. So a historic start for the Colorado Avalanche. Later today, I'm going to see them play in person. Panthers and the Avalanche play later on this evening. So that's going to be a fun matchup here in South Florida that I'll get to see firsthand. Just to put it in perspective, talking about Colorado and their plus 73 goal differential as a team. One team that I thought I'd do a comparison on just because plus 73, that sounds like a gaudy number. I thought, what was Tampa Bay's goal differential back in 18-19? I know that their playoff run, it wasn't much of a run. It came to a screeching halt pretty quickly at the hands of the Columbus Blue Jackets in round one that year. But that was the 62-win Tampa Bay Lightning team that just dominated the regular season. Their goal differential at the end of the season back in 18-19 was plus 103. So Colorado is at plus 73 through about half of the schedule this year. What they're doing offensively and as a team right now, again, maybe we see some regression to the mean, as they always say, in the second half, but even a regression by Colorado's perspective, from Colorado's perspective right now, would still put them obviously comfortably probably in first place in the Central Division, and just a team that's putting together a heck of a year. Talking about some of the key players on that team and what they've accomplished, Nathan MacKinnon has just been on a mission this season. He's at plus 51 right now, Nathan MacKinnon, and I know plus minus as a stat doesn't maybe carry the same weight that it once did, but to put that in perspective, since the 21-22 season, here are the only plus 50 seasons, and Nathan MacKinnon's at plus 51 through about half of the schedule. Since 21-22, you had that year, Johnny Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm, and Matthew Tkachuk all were above plus 50 the year that they were aligned together in Calgary. Devon Toews was over plus 50 that year as well. Gus Forsling here in Florida did it in the 23-24 season. And since 21-22, that's it. Those are the only plus 50 or better seasons in the National Hockey League. So what he's doing through half of the schedule is pretty unbelievable, and could be getting into historic territory by the time it's all said and done this year with what Nathan MacKinnon's done individually. Buffalo, their 10-game win streak. Speaking of 10-game win streaks, that came to a halt, but huge credit to the Sabres. They've worked their way back into this playoff race, and again, really just probably restored a lot of the faith of the Buffalo fans and probably restored some excitement. I know we're going to be out in Buffalo. Would be a little over a week from now, and I'm excited to see that matchup and again see the excitement around the Sabres, because Buffalo is a great sports town. We see it all the time, whether we're watching Bills games on TV or whatever the case may be. It is a great sports town, and again, it's going to be interesting to see if there's some rejuvenated excitement there around the Sabres. Tampa Bay's won 7 straight. Speaking of teams on hot streaks in the Atlantic Division, they're the hottest team in the East right now since Buffalo had their win streak halted. An individual will probably look at a couple Lightning players in coming episodes because, again, teams playing well there in Tampa. But Braden Point, that's a name to watch there. He's heating up. Keep an eye on him. I think a lot of people maybe overlooked him the first portion of this season. Didn't have the start that he probably wanted from a point production standpoint, but he's been about a point per game or better in the last month or so. So he's overcoming that slow start as far as point production goes and pulling things together. And, you know, when Tampa Bay's having success, a lot of times Braden Point is right there in the middle of it. And we've seen him score 50 goals before. So he is as dangerous an offensive player as there is in the National Hockey League. Minnesota, rolling since the Quinn Hughes trade, about a point a game for Quinn Hughes individually since the trade. And the Minnesota Wild, I believe at this point, in their 11 games with Quinn Hughes, I believe they have points in 10 of those. So Minnesota playing really well. The only problem is they happen to be in the same division as Dallas and Colorado. So it's been an uphill climb in terms of trying to close the gap in the standings. They've caught up to Dallas a bit, but Colorado, that might be a little bit out of reach. We'll have to wait and see how things play out. But plain and simple, the Quinn Hughes trade is working for the Minnesota Wild, and one of the most fun players to watch in the National Hockey League, no doubt about it. The other thing to keep an eye on, folks, I know it sounds crazy, but we're about halfway through the NHL schedule in terms of games played. I know, speaking firsthand, the Panthers and the Avalanche game I'm going to be calling later on today at the time of this recording, both these teams are going to play game 41 of 82 today. And the Rangers, they're already a couple of games past game number 41, for example. Teams are getting to the halfway points of their schedules, and in a lot of cases, going past the halfway point of the schedules. By the time this episode drops, a lot of teams will be over halfway through their schedule. So again, it's a season that is just flying along, cruising along. And as we cruise along here on Nonsense on Ice, presented by our friends at Upper Deck, let's get to the Hobby 3 Stars as we always do. We'll have the conversation with Brad Hartlin, GM of PSA Canada, coming up right after the Hobby 3 Stars. Hobby 3 Stars this week. Let's get to it. Tom Wilson, we'll lead it off with him. He was named to Team Canada, and I mentioned it off the top. Some of the players that you thought were slam dunks to make their Olympic teams. Maybe it'll have to take until games start being played for their markets to really respond to anything Olympic related. But in the case of Tom Wilson, He was going to have to make this team. He wasn't one of the initial players named. He was in a group of players that were kind of being rumored as options. Tom Wilson gets named to the team, and we have seen a boost in his card prices. Now, he's been playing really well. He might be putting together a career year. We'll see how it all plays out for him. He's had great numbers this year, up to 22 goals at the time of our recording. His career high was 33 last season, so he has a great chance to blow past that career high in goals. He's only 31 years old, feels like he's been around forever, but again, only 31, still has a lot of runway to go in his National Hockey League career. And he had a Gordie Howe hat trick on New Year's Eve in Washington's win over the Rangers, doing what Tom Wilson does, not afraid to mix it up, play that physical brand. That's a lot of what landed him on Team Canada, that physicality that he brings, the edge that he brings, the leadership, and the ability to kill penalties as well. I know penalty killing's not going to sell cards necessarily, but just speaks to the overall roundedness of Tom Wilson's game. His raw 13-14 Upper Deck Young Guns rookie card number 212 in that set. Sales recently between $21 and $36 since the announcement, since he was named to Team Canada. Before the season, you could pick up PSA 10s of that around $78 to $94. The last PSA 10 was on December 28th, so it would have been before the announcement of Tom Wilson to Team Canada. $136 on that particular card, but those are up substantially since before the season. I looked over the summer; those were under $20 and a lot of times under $10 if you go back to August, September, that time period. So he's seen a boost not only because of his play for Washington this season, but recently being named to Team Canada. Tom Wilson will be wearing the maple leaf on his sweater come the games in Milan. And going from Tom Wilson, a longtime veteran, to a guy who has been around for a few years, but still just getting started in his National Hockey League career, Dylan Guenther of the Utah Mammoth. We haven't talked enough Mammoth here on Nonsense on Ice. And when you have a guy who's signed to a long-term contract, he's signed in Utah until 32-33. Team moves to Utah. Tons of excitement around the team, and this is one of the guys that they're going to build around there who's going to be, again, a guy that Utah fans are going to be able to gravitate to. And he's got a great personality off the ice, it seems, and a guy that can really shoot the puck on the ice. Taking a look at his stats this season, 20 goals already. He had 27 in 70 games last year, which was a career high. And when we say career high, he's just getting going. Won't turn 23 until April, Dylan Guenther. So Dylan Guenther putting together a nice year, already at 20 goals. He signed through 32-33, second most goals, 71 in 189 games. Second most goals of anybody else from that, 2021 NHL draft class. Only Wyatt Johnston of the Dallas Stars has more, and he's played almost 100 games more than Dylan Guenther has. But that's a 2021 draft that includes Mason McTavish, Matty Beniers, Matthew Nyes, Kent Johnson, for example. And it's Dylan Guenther who has the second most goals of anybody from that 2021 draft. I've been a big Dylan Guenther fan for a while. Again, he can really shoot the puck. He's fun to watch. He's going to be a building block there in Utah for a long time. His raw 22-23 Upper Deck Young Guns rookie card, number 497. Recent sales, I thought this sounded like a good buy. $7 to $12 on the raw Young Guns. The last PSA 10 on New Year's Day that I saw, per card ladder, all the sales data per card ladder, $50 on a PSA 10 Young Gun back on New Year's Day. Taking it a step further, in December, 3 of his 22-23 SP Authentic Future Watch autos to $9.99. 3 PSA 9s of that sold, $140, $96, and $97 on those. Love the Future Watch autos, and I'm sure a lot of you, if you've been around the hobby for a long time, it's one of those things I've really never heard a bad thing about. They're just so clean on card, great designs, great looking autographs, and one of the flagship rookie cards that people in the hobby gravitate towards. So a chance to pick up his Future Watch autos still at a pretty friendly price tag. So Dylan Guenther, number 2 on our Hobby 3 stars this week. And number 3, and these are oftentimes in no particular order, and they're not always stat-driven, but we do have 3 guys this week who are putting together nice seasons and who have had some nice stats lately. Third up on our Hobby 3 stars, I saw him play the other night. He is one of, if not the best goaltender in the National Hockey League. From the Rangers, Igor Shesterkin. 17 wins this season at the time of our recording, a .912 save percentage. He's played more than any goalie in the league this season. He is the definition of a workhorse. He's right in his prime, and he also is signed through the 32-33 season, so he's going to be a Ranger for a long time. And that adds something to this. He's going to be a Ranger for a long time. Rangers have a huge, dedicated fan base. If you believe in the Rangers long-term, that means you believe in Igor Shesterkin. And if the Rangers do win a Stanley Cup at some point in the years to come, and Igor Shesterkin is the goaltender who delivers that to the Big Apple, then he will, and we've talked about this in regards to some other players on some historic teams, but if Igor Shesterkin down the road delivers a cup to New York, he will go into a different stratosphere. That's just the way it goes in terms of how he's viewed historically in the National Hockey League, but also how he's viewed in the card market. So looking at Igor Shesterkin's rookie cards, he had the 1920 Upper Deck Young Guns update, if you remember. Some raw sales of that, $51 to $72 recently. PSA 9s are right in that range. And he also had the 1920 Upper Deck Young Guns canvas out of Series 2 that year. That's a $30 to $50 raw card right now. Again, this is a guy who is a future Hall of Famer, great individual stats, and if you believe at some point that he can deliver a cup to New York, then he has the opportunity to go into a different tier hobby-wise. But Igor Shesterkin has become one of those players that you just can't talk about this era of the National Hockey League without mentioning the work of Igor Shesterkin between the pipes. So our Hobby 3 stars this week, Tom Wilson from the Capitals, Dylan Guenther from the Utah Mammoth, Igor Shesterkin from the New York Rangers. We'll get to Macklin Celebrini's market here in just a few moments. We'll get our value vintage pick. We'll open this box of Ultimate Collection here in a few moments as well. But first, let's get to our guest, the general manager of PSA Canada, Brad Hartlin, kind enough to stop by. Let's go to that conversation. Well, honored to be joined by our special guest here on today's edition of Nonsense on Ice, the general manager of PSA Canada, Brad Hartlin, here with us. Brad, thank you so much for taking some time for us here today on Nonsense on Ice to talk about hockey, to talk about the hobby, to talk about, of course, PSA Canada, where you are the general manager. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you having me, Doug. I was looking forward to this for the last couple of weeks since I heard about it, and I'm excited to have a chat.
Well, we're excited to dive right in, handful of topics, and I guess just diving right in, obviously PSA Canada, it's growing. The receiving center opened in Mississauga a few months ago. If you can, maybe just give us kind of the summary version here, and it's at an appropriate time as we've turned the page from 2025, looking forward to 2026. What's been the growth of PSA Canada? How was the year for you guys there?
Yeah, no, it was an incredible year for us across the board with submission volume and the experiences that we had with our customers. It was tremendous to see the growth that we have incurred. Very excited to, on October 20th, we launched the new receiving center in Mississauga. We still have a submission center based in Halifax, where we have been for the last 2.5 years, under the collector's umbrella. So now we have the official submission center in Halifax. We have a team of 2 in Halifax, and we have a team of 20 in Mississauga, and it's a full receiving center, which we had a successful launch on October 20th. I guess I could say the difference between the two is that the receiving center is where the orders are received. We do first view images. We do a lot of the process there to make it easier prior to the cards being shipped to the U.S., where they're graded and then returned to us in Mississauga.
And that's something I wanted to elaborate on because we have a lot of folks here who are probably tuned in who are getting to know you for the first time, getting to know this process for the first time. And I think at the end of it, whether you're a collector in Canada directly utilizing it or a collector observing from the United States or somewhere else, what it's showing is this incredible growth in the hobby that we're experiencing. And that's why there's demand for something like this. But the process there, you mentioned there's the difference between a submission center and a receiving center, and then the cards from there would go elsewhere. What is, if we're getting into the nuts and bolts of it, what is that process like? And if you had to tell folks out there, maybe north of the border who are sending cards along, why can they rest assured knowing that everything is in great hands as the cards go from place to place?
Yeah. No, the receiving center does a lot of the steps. My mandate when I started with collectors was to eliminate as many friction points as possible for us Canadians shipping cards across the border to the US. So this was prior to all the tariff issues situation that we incurred. We started to really look at ways, what can we do to improve the customer experience? And as anyone that knows ships anything internationally, it can be very stressful. Cards are going cross borders, whether it's over to the UK, it's in the US. I mean, we concentrate on North America, but shipping even cards from Canada to the US can be stressful, whether it's the courier issues, tariff issues, duties, taxes, and just the length of time that sometimes things can happen. So that was our main goal, was to eliminate all these points that cause frustration for Canadians shipping their cards to PSA in the US. So by us doing that now, your cards come to our facilities in Canada. We take care of everything that you don't have to worry about anything to do with shipping, customs, etc. You're fully insured for our terms and conditions. You don't have to worry about duties coming back into Canada. We ensure we get your cards back safely, secure to your doorstep.
And obviously, I mean, I speak for a lot of folks in the hobby. I'm a PSA user. I know a lot of folks out there, one way or another, are themselves. But when you talk about this process and the cards just going from place to place, it takes a certain level, and this is a chance for you to talk about the commitment you have to the customer overall. It takes a commitment from PSA to be able to build this into what you have now and to have the vision for the future and to make sure that all these steps happen, doesn't it? Because again, it seems like from what I'm reading here, it's all part of a greater process that you guys are working on. But it takes a big commitment for you guys as a company to make sure all this stuff is happening, especially dealing with the international shipping side of it, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Collectors, our parent company, and PSA, we're committed to Canada. We've shown that since I'd started officially with collectors approximately 2.5 years ago now. We've The first big thing that we did was we had the on-site grading at the Sports Card Expo. That was something that people didn't think would happen. Us as a company, we never traveled outside the US to do on-site grading. So now we'll be going in. This year will be our third in November 2026. Will be the third time we're back to do on-site grading at the Toronto Sports Card Expo, which is very exciting. So that was one of our big accomplishments that we did, and that showed a commitment from PSA that, hey, we're committed to the Canadian market. Let's see what we can do here. Then we launched the receiving center again this year, which was another major accomplishment. Hired a staff of approximately 20 at this time. But we're still growing. We're already going to be hiring more employees in 2026 with the eventual goal. My goal is to have grading done in Canada. That's always been on my agenda.
Is there a timetable for something like that, or is it still maybe too early in the process to tell since you guys are just a few months into that new receiving center, for example?
Yeah, there we have to hit certain volumes. Obviously, on the trajectory we're going right now, it's great to see our volumes have increased. We've tripled the volumes that are in the last year for PSA Canada, which is just tremendous growth to see. But the hobby's on fire. TCG does play a big part of it. TCG would be our biggest volume in the Canadian market is TCG now, followed second by hockey. Yeah, hockey, I think the percentage right now is about 25% of cards that come from Canada, the Canadian market to PSA are hockey cards, which is still great to see. It's a tremendous number.
And I wanted to ask you specifically about that because we are a hockey card podcast here, and we're having a hockey oriented conversation, hockey hobby oriented conversation. But going off of that, for example, I wanted to turn the clock back a little bit and then look ahead. There was a massive Connor McDavid sale, for example, that made headlines back in December. It was a $405,000 sale on the Cup rookie RPA from 2015, numbered to 99. When a sale like that happens to a card in a PSA slab, obviously, do you guys feel the buzz from that? And how exciting is it for you? I know it's exciting for us in the hobby to see things like that, but for you guys inside the building at PSA, what's it like when you see something like that happen?
Yeah, it's incredible. When we see those cards come in the door prior to grading, that's always exciting. That's one of the most exciting parts of the job. You can sit in the receiving center or the sub center and watch these cards come in, and you never know what to expect. It could be a Monday, a Tuesday, Wednesday. Who knows what's going to come through the door? So I've been very fortunate running PSA Canada for just over 5 years now, and seeing some of the incredible cards come through the door. It's amazing. And then when we see our cards, like you said, the McDavid sale, almost $500,000 on. That was a double. That was a 10-10 McDavid Cup rookie 10-10. I mean, just an absolutely incredible card, and to see it hit $500,000, mind blowing. To be honest with you, I would never have expected that if you would have asked me that a year or two ago. If McDavid's Cup card was going to sell for $500,000, I would never have thought that was going to happen.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable to see anything like that. And you guys are obviously expanding and doing a ton of great work on your own, but the buzz that the hockey segment of the hobby has experienced, you go back these last few years. I mean, if we're just talking about what's going on the ice, you had that 23-24 rookie class with Bedard and all the hype that came with that. But on top of that, other players who've emerged from that class and created buzz. And then, of course, Macklin Celebrini last year and his very quick rise to kind of superstardom here, and his rookies from the Cup just coming out in the last month or so, obviously has to help you guys from your end with the expansion when you're doing great things in your segment, but it's got to help when you have that kind of buzz coming in from the hobby and from the players on the ice too.
Completely. And watching how the game itself has evolved. I mean, anyone that's I like to consider myself a hockey historian at times. I mean, played the game my entire life. I live and breathe hockey. And watching where the game with the young talent that has come into the league, and the excitement, and the parity. It's nice to see that almost any team can win on any given night. That's kudos to the NHL and the job that they've done. It's awesome to watch. You never know what's going to happen. But these young players now coming in, you mentioned it, Bedard, Celebrini. When I watched Bedard here in 2023 at the World Juniors, it was another whole level of stardom. I haven't seen anything like that since I watched McDavid in the World Juniors back in 2013, 2014. Make sure I get those years right. I remember the gold medal game was in Toronto. So heck, I might have got my years mixed up on that. But yeah, it's so exciting to watch this. Then the Four Nations Cup, which was fortunate. We went to all the Canada games out. Watching that was just another whole level. Now we got the Olympics coming up, and right now we're with the World Juniors with Gavin McKenna, and watching these young guys out on the ice now for Canada, and even watching as we continue to grow, not just with PSA, but hockey grows internationally. All of a sudden we played Canada, we played Latvia. Sorry, Latvia. It was a 2-1 game, close game. That used to be 10-0 after the first period sometimes against these teams. So watching how the international talent has just improved, it's just making the game even more and more exciting. I mean, it's the fastest game on earth. It's the most exciting game on earth. As you know, you're fully embraced in the game itself. It's awesome to see, and that just helps the collectible market.
And a couple different directions I wanted to go off of that. One more just about the day-to-day of PSA. Obviously, expanding the footprint in Canada, huge in the United States. I know there are footprints elsewhere across the world. How big of a priority is that to make PSA do it intelligently, do it in a way that makes sense, but to become as global as it can be, and how far can that go in terms of expanding the hobby, globally?
Completely, yeah. And like now that we have in the U.S., we have offices in Florida, New Jersey, Plano, Texas, Santa Ana, California. We have office in China. We have a full grading operation in Japan. We're opening a full grading operation in Germany in 2026. Another receiving center is coming in the UK in 2026, looking to expand in other continents as well. I don't know how much of things are released right now, so I don't want to say for sure, but yeah, we want to cover the globe. Again, with the mandate being, let's try to eliminate friction points for our customers. And that's the number one thing that we can do. The more receiving centers, submission centers, and full grading operations, that just makes it easier for our customer base that's all over the globe.
And I wanted to give you a chance to kind of talk about your hobby background too, because I know you're just one face at PSA, but there are a lot of people packaging up their prized possessions, sending them off to PSA, regardless of where under the PSA umbrella they're sending them. And I think it goes a long way for a lot of people to know you're by no means the person opening all the boxes and handling all the cards, but you're a person there that seems to deeply care about this hobby. And I think it's important for folks to know you're a guy that's beyond just the fact that you work for collectors and you work for PSA, where you're the GM of PSA Canada. You're a guy who cares deeply about this hobby. So what's the hobby background for Brad Hartlin like? What does it include?
Yeah. So I'm 49 years old now. I had my first store when I was 15 years old. Brad Sports Cards back in the back in 1989-90, right during the first boom of the junk wax era, we can say. Yeah, so I opened that up at 15, ran that for a year and a half, sold the business when I went away to play hockey in Quebec. Um, Played hockey till I was 20, had some pro tryouts, very exciting. Loved every opportunity, made some great friends along the way and memories that have lasted forever. But since then, we've had a collectible store for the last 20 plus years. My wife actually now owns and operates a full collectible store in Bedford, Nova Scotia, with a staff of 10, and they're growing as it goes. So it's probably the largest store in Atlantic Canada. So it's everything. It embraced us. My family's involved in it. I'm involved in it, and I've been a passionate collector since I started in 83, 84. So um, I, a lot of guys talk about it, but it's part of who you are. And I love the collectible hobby. I love trading cards. I don't know what I'd ever do without it. And I get it. And I understand when people are entrusting you with their cards that we have to do the best job that we possibly can. And as a company, that's something I'm very proud of. And there's lots of chatter. Yeah, the mistakes do happen. We are human, and things unfortunately do happen at times. But from a company policy, we have what I believe is the best in the business to protect our customers when mistakes unfortunately do happen.
And for you, what kind of hockey player, if you had to give us the scouting report, what kind of player was Brad Hartlin back in the day?
Yeah, so all through high school, midget, and into junior, goal scorer. Yeah, that was my forte. But in the mid '90s, the Quebec League was a little different than it is now. It was more rough and rumble, I guess you could say is the proper words. I was talking to my nephew about this yesterday, and we had one guy, Joel Terrio, I played with. He had a pro career, and one year he had 580 penalty minutes, I think was the final number in one season in the Quebec League. And now fighting's not in the league anymore. So, but I had a lot of great experiences, played with some incredible hockey players along the way. And then being from Nova Scotia, being very fortunate to have spent some time over the years with Crosby, with McKinnon, with Marchand, his 2011. I know he's a Florida boy now, but his 2011 Stanley Cup party that was here in Halifax was one of the greatest nights I ever had. That's for sure. So, yeah, very exciting, and to have all these connections in the hockey world, it adds to it. It makes life being in the collectible space when you do have connections throughout the sporting world makes things easier, and it gives you more credibility as well. You mention it back. It's like people have to trust who they're giving their items to, and being at the helm of PSA Canada is something I don't take for granted. And I try very hard to ensure and make myself available. My cell phone numbers and email numbers are out there. When people do have problems, reach out to me and we'll do the best to solve it. And fortunately, we don't have all that many too many problems. Things are pretty smooth, but there's always situations that arise.
And I would tell anybody at the folks north of the 49th don't need to be told this, but I would tell all the listeners stateside, for example, the license plates up in Nova Scotia, they say Canada's ocean playground for a reason. It's a great place to go and visit if you have the opportunity to stop by for even a day on a cruise or whatever the situation might be. It's a great place to visit. Brad, the day to day for you, day to day in your work, you've talked about how much it means to you to be the GM of PSA Canada and the responsibility that comes along with it, and what an honor it is to have that position. But for you, the day to day, what does it entail? Because, like I said, there are a lot of folks out there that they see PSA as just a place they send their stuff to get authenticated or graded, but there are a lot of people there that care deeply about what they're doing every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my day starts at 5 a.m. and usually shuts down around 9 p.m. It's 7 days a week. You can't get away from it. So that means in order to sustain that, you have to absolutely love it. When someone reaches out and they got questions about their order, I want to make sure I get back to them. I can't say, hey, it's on the weekend, I'll get back to you Monday. We want to make sure that we get back to customers ASAP. And we've done a really good job with that. And I've been instilling that with my team. To say, guys, we have to live and breathe this space, and we have to ensure that customer service is the number one thing that we can offer to our customers, and make sure we get back to them in a timely manner, and people know that their goods are in safe hands with us. And I truly believe that, and I know as a company we do everything possible to ensure that that happens.
And you probably get this question a lot. You mentioned going to the expo, things like that, but somebody wants to be a grader. What is the process to becoming a PSA grader? I know that in Canada, you're not doing the grading in Canada yet, but somebody says, "Hey, I want to be a grader." What is that process like? How does somebody get to that point?
Yeah, so we're always looking for potential candidates that would like to become graders. Obviously, there's no positions available right now, but we're constantly hiring in Japan and New Jersey. We're going to be hiring now in Germany as well. And the process lasts, again, it's not something that I have been part of, but I do know it's about a 6 month period to get trained officially to become a grader. There's tests, there's like grading schools, which we call it. You have to go through, and not everyone can be a grader. You have to have the ability to be able to do it. It's not something that's easy, that's for sure. Being in a dark room for all day, staring at cards, it can definitely take its toll on you, that's for sure. So I know our grading team, led by our head grader, is a gentleman that I met 4 years ago and became friends with, and he just does an amazing job on training his staff from start to finish. And some of these guys have been grading with us for 30 plus years now, which is they're the best in the business, no questions asked.
And a couple more before we let you get going here, Brad. We thank you so much for your time, but we talked about it a little bit out of the gate. This 25-26 rookie class in the hockey card hobby seems like it's going to be a strong one, and we've talked about some of the names, but when you've got, for example, Ivan Demidov, when you have a Montreal Canadian coming in with that kind of hype, and the most hyped Montreal Canadian maybe in a few decades, when you talk about what the ceiling could be for him, Matthew Schaefer, what he looks like as an 18-year-old, going right down the list. How much buzz are you guys feeling with this class, the 25-26 rookie class, as we're just getting going and we're just seeing these rookie cards get rolled out, and we're probably just seeing these rookie cards show up at PSA Canada?
Absolutely. When you have anyone, especially in Canada, when you have a Montreal Canadian or a Toronto Maple Leaf that shows potential and little on superstar potential, like Demidov does for sure, when you watch, the hobby just goes in a completely different direction when it comes to these guys. Anyone in a Montreal or Leaf uniform, especially those two teams, just goes to another whole level. I Watching Demidov play and watching his charisma that he has and his skill levels off the charts. I truly believe he's going to be a superstar in the NHL, and he's with Martin St. Louis at the helm in Montreal. I think he's got some good guidance, and he's in a great place to see. But it is it's remarkable though when you watch, especially a new product come out, and you could be a C plus prospect, but if you have that Habs or Leafs jersey on, as soon as release day comes, their cards are off the charts. They're buying, they're ripping, they're getting the cards, they're sending them into us for grading. The hype is there, the hype is real, the excitement is for sure. So yeah, it's awesome to see. And then next year coming in with McKenna and these guys that we're watching now in the World Juniors. I mean, the talent pool that's coming, it's just amazing. It's so exciting to watch this caliber of hockey, and um, especially led, I guess you could say, not to go back too much on it, but the McDavid era. When McDavid hit the league, there's another level now these players are playing at, and um, McDavid, McKinnon, and watching these guys. Now the younger guys are coming in and they're training, 12 months a year. It's a lifestyle, and it's exciting to be part of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're noticing at the top end players, it feels like the elite of the elite are stepping in and performing younger, earlier than maybe they ever had, and you're seeing the talent level across not just North America, but the entire world. It's growing. You got teams in 32 different locations. I've been talking about it quite a bit, but so much credit seems to go to coaching and player development at every level, but also to Upper Deck for making these rookie classes so loaded, because I tell you what, they've been exciting these last few years. So there's credit to hand out to a lot of different people, and to send out a lot of different directions. Brad Hartlin, GM, PSA Canada, kind enough to stop by. Last thing, what does 2026 hold? Are there maybe some items you could tease for us going into the new year? What should we be excited about as collectors, as consumers, going into the new year?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for us is PSA Canada in 2026. We're going to be going coast to coast. So we're going to be releasing our schedule and drop-off events. That's going to start in February 2026. And we'll be attending shows from BC to Nova Scotia, drop-off events at your local hobby shops, which we currently do in the US. We're just building our calendar out for that. So my goal is to have PSA in every province in 2026, where customers that don't want to ship their cards, they can come meet us and drop them off in person.
Like you said, the more you can do to make things easier on the customer, I think that just goes a long way with everybody. And well, Brad Hartlin, GM, PSA Canada, kind enough to stop by here today. Happy New Year to you, sir. It's been great to chat with you. Honor to have you here on the show, and we look forward to chatting with you again down the road. But again, Brad, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you so much, Doug. I really appreciate it.
So big thanks to Brad Hartlin, the general manager of PSA Canada, for stopping by this week on Nonsense on Ice, presented by Upper Deck. Great to catch up with him to talk the hobby, and it was just awesome to hear his hobby background too. He's a guy who's just cares deeply about the card hobby, and it was just great to chat with him there, and again hear about all the plans that they've got and the expansion in Canada. And I know that's going to be a big help for a lot of our Canadian collectors out there in the audience who are looking to get their stuff off to PSA, for example. So again, big thanks to Brad Hartlin from PSA Canada for stopping by, taking some time out for us on Nonsense on Ice, presented by Upper Deck. Well, we had our hobby 3-stars a little bit ago, and I mentioned a couple of weeks back that Macklin Celebrini right now, he's kind of graduated from hobby 3-stars. We could throw him in there every week, not only because of what he's doing on the ice, but because of the fact that he is a driving force in the hobby right now. Every week, it feels like there are record Macklin Celebrini sales that are taking place. His market got another boost, no doubt about that. He was named to Team Canada, and this is one of the guys that got a boost from being named to that roster. There was always discussion. There was even debate. Was it going to be Bedard Celebrini being named to the roster? And Connor Bedard will have his time. No doubt about that down the road. But Macklin Celebrini gets named to Team Canada. His raw 24-25 Young Guns, and we'll talk about a non-Young Gun here shortly, just like we did last week. But his raw 24-25 Young Guns, they're at this point basically impossible to find under $200, it seems. If you do find one under $200, you're either lucky, or I would say examine the card. Take a look at it. Make sure nothing's wrong with it. But right now it seems like tough to find those under $200 US, and that's been the case for a little bit. Last few raw sales that I saw in Card Ladder, $232, $276, $250. PSA 10 Young Gun sales since New Year's Day. Couple of weeks back, it felt like we were looking at $1,000 as the floor. Now it feels like the floor on those is about $1,100. On January 2nd, there was a PSA 10 Young Gun sale on a Macklin Celebrini. $1,403. We saw one go over the $1,400 mark per card ladder. And as far as what I've seen, and as far as what I saw on card ladder, at the time of our recording, it feels like this is changing every single day, but that was a new high for that card from what I had seen. Now, I want everybody to know too, though, and this is where the hockey card hobby, where Upper Deck has given us some luxuries, because sometimes it feels like in the hockey world, you might have a little bit more runway to jump on board. You might have some extra time to get on that moving train, if you will, that moving train that is Macklin Celebrini's card market. Because a lot of folks out there might look at those Young Gun sales and maybe think you missed the boat. Not the case. There are still options out there. And again, he's a 19-year-old player, so there is still some speculation here, even though what he's doing on the ice is absolutely special. But I believe in Macklin Celebrini's game long term. When he was an 18-year-old rookie, I saw him play once. I was blown away by the hockey IQ. You could see it on full display. The plays he's making away from the puck stood out as much as the plays that he makes with the puck. Just a really smart player, and the work ethic is off the charts, and everything that you need to lay the foundation for a superstar in the National Hockey League. I believe in his game long term. What I'm trying to say here is you didn't miss the boat on Macklin Celebrini's card market. If you still want to grab a Macklin Celebrini rookie card on the cheap, there are still options out there. And again, getting back to what I said off the top, where Upper Deck has given us a lot of options. You have products in all different ranges to fit all different budgets. There is no such thing right now as a bad Macklin Celebrini card. And I've talked a lot about Metal Universe and the bang for the buck that product affords you. In the hobby boxes of Metal Universe, which are about $140, and you get an autograph or a PMG in every box, you also get a rookie in every hobby pack. Macklin Celebrini's base rookies out of Metal Universe, at the time of this recording, you can still snag those in the $10 to $15 range. And if you felt like this whole Macklin Celebrini train just left and you weren't on board and you missed it, it's not the case. There is still stuff out there, and he's got a lot of inserts too that you can pick up at a pretty friendly price. But those hobby boxes of Metal Universe, if you still want to experience the chase, if you want to pull something Celebrini, you can get those hobby boxes around $140 from Dave and Adams, for example. Blasters you can find online around $30 if you still want to chase. But if you just want to go grab yourself a Macklin Celebrini card, or if you're the type of buyer that likes to, and I know I've done this before, there are a lot of people out there who do this, maybe you find that card that's maybe undervalued right now or still affordable, and you go and buy some quantity of it. And maybe you look through them and find some that might be grade worthy, and you fire them off to PSA, and maybe you can get one or two of those to Gem and see how things go there. It's just another way to go about it. But if you're just looking for a Macklin Celebrini rookie card, there are base rookie options out there, and Metal Universe is one of them, and you can still get those in the $10 to $15 range. And like I said, the hobby version of the product has a rookie card in every pack, a base rookie in every pack. So if you want to experience pulling something Celebrini, like, my goodness, wouldn't it be something if we were able to pull something Celebrini out of this Ultimate Collection box in a moment? If you still want that experience, there is sealed product out there. Value Vintage pick of the week, Terry Sawchuk. Now, last week on Hobby 3 Stars, I mentioned that Sergei Bobrovsky had tied, and since then he has surpassed Terry Sawchuk for 8th on the all-time goaltending wins list. So Terry Sawchuk 9th on that list right now. But this is a guy who was widely regarded as the best goalie in National Hockey League history up until around the turn of this century, when some other names entered the conversation. Dominik Hasek, Patrick Roy, Martin Brodeur, guys like that. But for most of the 20th century, this is the goalie that was viewed as the best of all time, and there were some great ones. And I know there might be some Canadiens fans out there saying, no, it was Jacques Plante. He was the best goalie of all time. And we can have that discussion another time. But But Terry Sawchuk, he is one of the greatest goaltenders to ever lace him up, and he was viewed as one of, if not the best goalie of all time for, again, most of the 20th century. His 51-52 Parkhurst, and for a lot of players from that era, a lot of the guys that were stars in the 50s, the 51-52 Parkhurst, especially in any kind of mid to high grade, is going to be that's going to be in a pretty high price tier, no question about it. But if you go to the second and 30-year cards of some of these all-time greats, pretty attainable. And this one was surprising to me. A 52-53 Parkhurst Terry Sawchuk, number 86 in the set. Since September 17th, there hasn't been a ton of sales on this card, but since September 17th, 2 SGC 3s have sold for $137.50 and $142.50 per card ladder. So right in that range for a really nice copy of a 52-53 second-year Terry Sawchuk. If you go a year later, the 53-54, you can get raws of that third-year Terry Sawchuk around $40. It's a chance to add just a piece of history to your collection. And I mentioned the second-year card and the third-year card because that 51-52 Parkhurst, the Gordie Howe rookie year, the Maurice Richard rookie card set, that in any grade over a 1 is going to be a 4-figure card. So if you just want to get in on the Terry Sawchuk market, if you want to start a collection of Hall of Famers, if you have a collection of vintage Hall of Famers going, great chance to pick up a Terry Sawchuk second or third year card. I was pretty surprised at how attainable those are. Hall of Famer goes without saying, 4 Stanley Cups, 4 Vezina trophies, Rookie of the Year in 1951, named to the NHL's top 100 team back when they announced that. 445 wins, has him 9th all-time, and 103 shutouts in his National Hockey League career. So the Great Red Wing is what he's known most as, but played for a handful of other teams over his career. But again, a chance to pick up a piece of history, a Terry Sawchuk card at a really reasonable price. All right, folks. We've had the Hobby 3 Stars. We've talked about Celebrini. We've talked about some league storylines. We had Brad Hartlin stop by. We had our value vintage pick. Nonsense on Ice, presented by Upper Deck. We encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend, send in a question if you have one. We'll get back to the mailbag next week, probably. Time to open up some Ultimate Collection. Now, Ultimate Collection, beautiful patches in here, relics, autographs. Obviously, we're chasing Celebrini. There's Michkov, Gauthier, Jesper Wallstedt, that really exciting 24-25 rookie class. I know it's 2026 now. Had to stop and think for a moment. It is 2026 now, but especially because of Macklin Celebrini, the chase in the 24-25 products is not going to end. So 4 cards a pack, 1 pack a box. Got this at the Winter Classic. My friends from AA Min Cards were set up. Got it from them. All right, 4 cards. There's going to be at least 1 patch card in here. Well, this is a nice start to the pack. Numbered to 149. Wayne Gretzky, numbered to 149. Not a bad way to kick it off with a legend. So Wayne Gretzky to 149, and that is the base silver. Doing my best to not look in the stack here. Doing my best to not even look at the back card because I can see the stack. So Wayne Gretzky. Oh, not bad. Ultimate Signatures. Team Canada. Jordan Binnington. Try to get it where you can see it. Jordan Binnington, Stanley Cup winning goaltender. Nice autograph there, and looks like he's going to get the first opportunity to start for Team Canada. Now, the next one's a patch card. I believe the next one's a patch card. Not numbered on the Binnington autograph. Okay, got the patch card. It's an Ultimate Emblems, which can be a rookie. Let's see here. It's a Dallas Star. Oh, look at that. Speaking of the Olympics and the Four Nations face-off last year. Thomas Harley. Thomas Harley, Ultimate Emblems autograph. Nice one there. And the last card in the pack, oh, it's not a bad rookie patch here. I think this is one of the sneaky rookies to chase in 24-25. It's a patch number to 499. Cal Ritchie. He's an Islander now. Broke in, played his first NHL games as a member of the Avalanche, but he was one of the big pieces involved in that Brock Nelson trade last year that ultimately sent Nelson to the Avalanche, and Cal Ritchie was one of the big pieces going back to the island. So that's a rookie patch card. Cal Ritchie to 499. So look at that. We got some Olympians here. We got some good vets. I mean, it was pretty light on the rookies in that pack, about as light as you can get out of this product. I think the last Ultimate Collection box I opened, if you looked at my social channels, we opened one up at the Winter Classic, and I think that whole box, all 4 cards in it were rookies, but we get a couple of nice veteran autographs here. And we got the Gretzky numbered card off the top. And the cards are just really nice. If you're in the mood to take a swing with a product, get some cool stuff, some autographs, patches, Ultimate Collection. Good place to go. Folks, this has been Nonsense on Ice, presented by our friends at Upper Deck. Hope you enjoyed the program. Again, as always, we encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, send along a question. If you disagree with something I've said, I'd love to hear why. And I mentioned at the Winter Classic, we did some ripping. If you haven't seen, oddly enough, in the booth, pulled the Demidov Young Gun rookie out of an Upper Deck Series 1 blaster box. Videos online. I was pretty surprised. That one caught me by surprise. I was pretty pumped about that because I've opened a decent amount of Series 1, and that was the first Demidov that I'd pulled. So it was still hadn't gotten the big chase, but got it there. Anyway, folks, that is going to do it for this edition of Nonsense on Ice. Lots in the coming weeks to get to. We'll have an Olympic preview down the road. And again, the season is just continuing along. Hard to believe. Like I said, we're already about halfway or more in the case of a lot of teams through the National Hockey League schedule. So again, like, subscribe, comment. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Thanks to Rebecca for the great production work on the other side. Thanks to Brad Hartlin from PSA Canada for stopping by the show. Looking forward to talking to him again down the road. Most of all, thanks to all of you for making us a part of your listening week. This has been Nonsense on Ice, presented by Upper Deck. We'll talk to you next time.